And we talked about how to get the average soldier throughout history to kill is kind of hard. And you can really track history as a series of ever better ways to empower people to kill. And how in modern years we've gotten very good with conditioned responses and pop-up targets and how it feels to kill, how people respond to killing.
You can't give me the right to be a human being. I'm fine with that right. Now you can keep me from having that if you've got all the policemen and all the jobs on your side.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me for another video. I took a brief hiatus. My parents came and visited. Well, they wanted to spend some time with the kids and I before Christmas and kind of celebrate Christmas with the kids. So we did violate King Inslee's orders, and not only did I have visitors from outside of my house come, I had out-of-state visitors that didn't quarantine for 14 days. I know I'm such a public health risk. I'm like a biohazard. Anyways, while I was taking my break, and something that happened a little bit before Thanksgiving here in Spokane County, as we've had a couple of officer-involved shootings. One was the Spokane County Sheriff's Department, and the other one was actually at the jail. So it was a corrections officer who's under the sheriff, but he was a corrections officer, not a deputy. So there is a distinction there. So I just want to talk about those really quickly. It's been in Spokane. Over the summer with the George Floyd protests with BLM and all that, it's been a little bit, there's been some controversy because Ozzie Knezovich, the sheriff of Spokane County, piece of crap, he wanted to bring in a Killology guy. So he brought in a training course October 27th and 28th. I can't remember exactly what it was called. I'm going to play a little video here about it. But it was pretty controversial, and people didn't want him to have it, and he just said, I don't really care, I'm having it anyway. But it's that type of training that a lot of people believe is what leads to these types of shootings. So I'm going to just play a couple of videos here that'll give you some idea of what the circumstances are with the shootings. I'm going to make some comments about them. So while you're watching the video, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with all your friends and family, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like I've been saying, hopefully you're not watching this on YouTube. We shouldn't be supporting platforms that censor like that. You should go find us on Library, on 3Speak, on BitChute, on DTube. There's so many other platforms that a lot of us creators use. Links to all the platforms I use and my channels on those platforms is in the description of all my videos, so you can check them out. I encourage you to go start using multiple platforms instead of just one. We really need to decentralize. Anyways, I'm going to shut my mouth so you guys can see what's going on here in Spokane County with these officer-involved shootings, and maybe why they're happening and why they happened so close after this training program came to town.
I have decided that, well, maybe instead of having him train law enforcement, maybe I'll have him come here and talk to the community. So the community can actually have a dialogue with this guy.
So that is Spokane County Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich now responding to calls to cancel a Killology training session. The Sheriff's Office is hosting this training coming up in October, but in the wake of the George Floyd death, there have been thousands of signatures on multiple petitions to cancel it. The training will be taught, or would be taught, by retired Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. He's the founder of this Killology research group, and the event promises to teach participants about winning when you're wounded. It also says it will help make someone a winner and combat war preparation for your spouse or family. Now, Spokane Police did confirm to us today that...
So that last little part, that's one of the topics in the course that came here to Spokane on October 27th and 28th. I'm just going to replay that there. I think that was really important, what that last little bit was.
And combat war preparation for your spouse or family.
Combat war preparation for your spouse or family. Why would a peacekeeper in the United States need that kind of training? I don't know. I guess obviously they aren't peacekeepers and they're training for some kind of war and combat. Seems pretty clear. Anyhow, so I wanted to play that clip because that was, like I said, that just happened on October 27th and 28th of this year is when they had that training here in Spokane County at the Sheriff's Training Center. So now I want to play a couple other videos. This first one is back from November 22nd. In the evening of November 22nd, there was the first of two recent officer-involved shootings. This one was in Spokane Valley. It was either Spokane Valley police officer, which is actually a Spokane County Sheriff's deputy. They've been hired by the city of Spokane Valley to provide law enforcement services. So this guy was shot by we'll just say a Spokane County deputy.
Crime 2's Brandon T. Jones is tracking the late-breaking details tonight. Brandon, what have you learned?
Well, Tim, we know this.
So I'm just going to say right off, before I play any more here, the guy was stopped. He was being pursued for reckless driving. They said he was driving dangerously, but they didn't give any of the details of that. Now you're going to start getting details of what happened after he's starting to get threatened with violence. Has a cop behind him with his cherries and berries. That's a threat of violence. If you don't pull over, they're going to smash your car up, do exactly what they tried to do. This guy ended in the loss of his life. So how can you not say it's not a threat of violence? Anyhow, people act differently once the lights are on behind them, yet we're judged for if we don't just comply, even though we maybe haven't done anything to hurt anybody else or damage any property or steal anything. I don't know, maybe this guy did damage some property or hit some cars. He certainly did after, as you're about to hear, but they didn't say anything about him hitting any cars before he was being pursued by police. So I assume that to mean, because they didn't tell us that he wasn't damaging property. He was maybe just driving in a way they didn't like him to. But there's still no victim, so there really isn't any crime, yet they're going to threaten violence against him, which results in his death. So I guess that's about all I need to say about that. I'm just going to play the video now.
Situation took place a few hours ago, but if you look right behind my shoulder, officers are still out here investigating the situation. All hands are on deck. Several agencies are working to get to the bottom of this investigation. We're actually right over my shoulder. You can see where the officer's car was hit by the suspect. We don't know too much about the suspect, actually, and there's not going to be too much information that comes out about him. All that we know is that he was an adult male. Around 6:45, the suspect's car was spotted driving out of control. Officers then started a pursuit with the vehicle before the suspect hit multiple cars in the area. In hopes of slowing him down, officers decided to set up a...
So right there, you heard him say, they didn't like the way he was driving, so they started pursuing him, and then he started to hit multiple vehicles. So he hadn't, according to what they've told us, he hadn't done any property damage. He was just doing something they didn't like.
roadblock trying to stop the car. The suspect actually plowed through that block, and once he got through, he was driving right in the direction of deputies.
We tried to stop the vehicle here because of his driving pattern through the legal intervention using the patrol car. The vehicle was able to get out and drive towards two of the deputies, and at that point, shots were fired.
So, just so you know as well, Spokane County Sheriff's Department, they don't have any body cams, any dash cams, nothing. Ozzy plays this game like he wants them, but they're just too expensive, yet every time he tries them out, it's probably the most expensive option out there on purpose so that he can claim they're too expensive. Anyhow, I digress. So basically, like I said there, they've created the situation. The guy wasn't hurting anything. Maybe he was doing something they didn't like, but he wasn't hurting anything. Then they're going to threaten him with violence, and based on his reaction, now all of a sudden he's become a threat to the officer's safety. Now this is all in the training that Grossman provides, that it's always a threat. Your life as a cop is always being threatened by everyone, and you have to watch out for that and defend yourself. So this is what I don't understand. Like, this is the only option. These guys were trying to stop him. He busted through some cars, it sounds like, and there's another deputy, two more deputies. They can't just get out of the way of a moving car. If you're watching this unfold, why is your first thought, I'm going to shoot this guy, rather than I'm going to say, if your idea is saving your life, why is it I'm going to shoot this guy rather than I'm just going to run and get out of the way, run to safety? Since he's in a car, he doesn't have a good turning radius. it just doesn't make sense to me. Why can't they ever just let him go? They have his license plate number, they have his car, they know what he looks like because they've been able to see inside the car, we assume, after such a pursuit. So why is it that we are still pursuing this guy and killing him rather than just letting him go and then going and getting him on a different day? Or maybe contacting him and saying, hey, what's the deal, buddy? You were driving crazy, Why does it have to end in violence because we didn't comply with this threat of violence against us? And it's obviously a threat of violence. Like I said, look what happened. So I know bootlickers, you're going to try to justify it however you want. Well, anyone who doesn't stop when a cop does that is just asking for it. Well, what did they do to ask for it? That's what you need to ask yourself. What did they do? Is speeding, or is maybe swerving over the yellow line twice because you're digging for something in your seat? Maybe it's not the safest thing to do, and maybe someone should talk to him and say, hey, don't do that. But is that something worth threatening someone's life over because they don't comply? He hadn't done anything to hurt anyone else. So the next one is a woman. We're going to talk about a little bit more after this, but she was shot right inside the Spokane County Jail on December 4th, the evening of the night of December 4th. I'll let them talk about the details here on this news clip, and then I'll break in and we'll discuss it a little bit more.
Yeah, Regina, we know that a corrections officer, a sergeant at the jail, shot and killed a woman kind of in the entry area of the jail. Go ahead and step out of the shot now so you can take a look here and see some of the investigators around leaving the scene. You can see in this kind of this alleyway between the jail and the public safety building that the sheriff's office is based out of. I'll take you through the information that we have so far. This is from the jail director. He said that at 8 p.m., a woman came to the jail and tried to get inside. She kept buzzing the button, and the receptionist kept trying to ask her what she wanted, but she wouldn't say. Instead, she just kind of pounded on the door. So then that corrections officer, a jail sergeant, arrived and tried to ask the woman what she was doing. She had a fixed blade knife, according to the jail director, and the sergeant told her to drop it and to back up. She apparently did not do that. The sergeant then fired shots. We don't know how many, and the woman did in fact die. Medical assistance arrived on the scene, but the woman died of her injuries. We're told that by the jail director that this is actually the first ever fatal shooting at the Spokane County Jail. Now, Washington State Patrol will lead the investigation with an assist from Spokane Police.
Okay, so what we heard is a lady came in. A lot of other reports said what they thought was a knife. It has been confirmed since then she did have a knife. But so this woman comes into the jail, gets past an area where maybe she wasn't supposed to be. And then instead of just overpowering a woman, she's now dead. She had a knife, and we have less lethal options. Pretty much everybody I see that walks around with a gun that's a law enforcement officer, that's not like a plain clothes, also has a taser, also has a baton, or usually they have a baton. There's lots of other options. They're less lethal, but these classes like Grossman's teach these cops to kill first, and it's not okay. If they're heroes, why are they killing first? Why aren't they exhausting all their other options? If they're heroes, they would have a little bit of sacrifice. Like, I might have to get a little knife slash to my arm as I'm deflecting this lady come at me so that I can save her life and we can actually get her the help she needs, because obviously this woman is suffering from some sort of issue that she comes to a jail armed with a knife. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of logic to break that down. So why are we killing these people? It's because of training like Grossman's. There are so many other options, but he provides it as your life or their life. And the reason I bring this up about, this is a woman that a man killed at the jail, that she had a knife and he had multiple options and training to be able to defend himself. And this is what he chose. This is what he went to, because she didn't comply with his demands to put down the knife when she was obviously distraught. We're obviously training these people wrong and have been for a long time. And everybody, all these blue line backers, until you start understanding at the very least this, there's not going to be any change. And the division between people like myself, or even people that still are statists but just want reform within the police, that division is never going to mend until you can recognize what's happening in these situations. So I just want to move on real quick here. A few days later, this is on the 8th, the county identifies the woman and the corrections officer. So this is the corrections officer here, Justin White. Not really going to go into him a whole lot. It really doesn't matter. This is the most important part. Who did he kill? Whose life did he take that night without using his training the way he should be trained if he actually is a hero anyways? Nancy King, a 70-year-old woman. So that was a 70-year-old woman. He couldn't overpower a woman, a 70-year-old woman with a knife coming at him. I don't know. I think if we're going to call these people heroes, it might have been worth it for him to have a little knife cut on the sleeve of his arm while he was taking this woman down and subduing her rather than just shooting her and ending her life.
Continuous support of my channel. We want to continue to support alternative and independent media like myself and others. The suggest diversifying